Hello, welcome to lecture 43 and this lecture is going to be on the number phi. I did my last lecture on the number pi. As I showed, I have a CD with a slideshow on it, Pi in the Sky. Quite an in-depth study of the number pi. I showed in that lecture where pi is in the Torah, in the book of Genesis, right in the first verse. My talk today will be based on this CD, which is called The Magic of Phi. And I was looking up on the internet about what other people have done on YouTube about phi, and I came across a very interesting video called Golden Ratio equals Mind Blown, with an exclamation mark afterwards. This lady who gave a talk on pi, not a long lecture, was remarkably alive and filled with a lot of joy about this number, and it is a fascinating number. This is something which is well worth looking into. Anybody that studies phi and doesn't believe that there's a God that created the universe can't see divine patterns and divine design within the universe, because phi ratio occurs in inanimate and in living plant and animal life and within the human body, in the ratios of the different parts of the body, whether it's the hand to the arm. I can't remember exactly, but there's all sorts of proportions, and Leonardo da Vinci shows this. So it's the most amazing number, and it's related to pi because it's got the same letters. It's got Pi in it, and with an H in the middle. And we'll see the significance of that letter H a little bit later. My curiosity has been that the sign for pi is what we might call Stonehenge, two pillars and a top, right? A lintel on the top of two pillars, like a doorway. And yet pi is about curvature. So I show that pi equals 25 equals bend, and pi is the power to bend. Yet this is like the symbol of a rectangle, which is what phi comes into. Phi starts off, in you calculating what phi is, you start off with a golden rectangle and the phi rectangle, and the symbol for phi is a circle with a line through it. And that's a circle. Yet one would have thought that the number for pi should have been the circle, and the number for phi should have been the rectangle. So I bring in this lecture towards the end, or not in the lecture, in the CD, why I think that is the case. This sort of blend between these two aspects of the square and the circle. There's such a thing as what you call squaring the circle, which I talk about on my slideshow on pi. So, and just to show that the magic of pi is magical, because phi is 16, 8 and 9 is 33, and magic is 33. Okay, but when I watched that lecture on golden ratio equals mind blown, I thought, wow, she chose a very good name for that lecture, and I might put it as the name for this lecture, that we call lecture 43, golden ratio equals mind blown, because I wanted to see with the really did equal. This is what she wrote. She wrote golden ratio equals mind blown, and I thought, well, maybe it does equal. So I looked into it and I calculated golden ratio. The large value, remember the large value G is 7, that's the placement value, and the word 7 is 65. O is 15, it's the 15th letter, that's the placement value, and the word 15 is 65. L is 12, and the word 12 is 87, etc. These are the large values, these are the placement values, and I get 744 for the large value of golden ratio. And if I do the same thing for mind blown with the same system, right, the large value, I will also get 744. In other words, in the large value, golden ratio equals mind blown. They're both equal to 744. And that blew my mind. That was just incredible. Because she chose these words, absolutely no idea that there was an equation that would that there was a mathematical equation here. She just put equals, and I said to myself, well, maybe they do equal. And indeed, one's mind is blown with this number phi and pi, and together, and the fact there is a relationship between the two, and that is revealed at the end of this CD. Okay, you can purchase this as an e-show on my website, and I might have a few of these to sell, but I've got problems with reproducing these at the moment. So if you're interested, download it. It's much cheaper as an site, an e-show. So let me just show you a few things about pi. Okay, phi. I'm going to be talking about phi and pi all together. I'm very confused. Well, I showed that pi was in the first verse of the Torah, of the book of Genesis, and I'm going to show that phi is in the second verse of the Torah. And I also show that pi was related to there was this river that came out of Eden and split into four heads, and the first of those river is called Pison in English, I think Pison, which in Hebrew is Pishon, and I show that the Shon is in normal values is 300, and that's 50, and that's 6 gives me 356, and that's in normal value. And I showed in a previous lecture on the circle that the word circle was 356 as the large value, and I show how the circle is related to 356 in 3 different ways when I put it around in the circle. Worth seeing that lecture because it's fascinating. And so we see that Shon, the idea of Shon, it shines through, it shines out, it's the sun. Shon, Shin is a dot on the right. If I want to make it into a sin, I put the dot on the left and it becomes son, sun. Alright, the sun shines, and the word shone and shine are therefore related to each other through this word shone. And this P, or pi son, pi is pi, the number pi is related to the sun of the circle, literally means a mouth, okay, which means a mouth, but sounds like pi, because, well, that you'll have to see the show to see how I show pi is related to this. But in simple terms, this is the mouth of Shon. So I'm not going to go into that. That is the first river that divides off, that's mentioned in the Bible, and the second river is called Gihon. Gihon. Okay, and I'll come back to this one later, and I'll show you how that's related to phi, the number phi. Okay, so let's rub this off, and let's just talk a little bit about the number phi. The number phi is related to a series of numbers called the Fibonacci Series, and Fibonacci is not really his real name. He's called Leonardo Pisa, and he's got other names as well. He's called Leonardo, says me, I can't find him, Bonucci. So Leonardo Bonucci was another one of his names. So we'll come to him in a minute, but Fibonacci, I think it's pronounced, has had a series which I don't think was his, but he sort of revealed it to the West. And it starts off with 0, 1, 1, and what we do is we add each number. So 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 and 1 is 2. To get the next one, you just add the previous 2. 1 and 2 is 3, 2 and 3 is 5. You keep adding the 2 previous ones to get the next one, and 5 and 8 is 13. So this is what we call the Fibonacci sequence, or series of numbers, and it goes on forever. And then if you were to take the ratio of these numbers, so you can't do the ratio of the first one, really, you don't often see the 0 as part of it, but mathematically we can put it as part of the series. Let's go 1 over 1. We divide the previous one into the next one. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. You get 3 divided by 2, 5 divided by 3, 8 divided by 5, 30 divided by 3. And you keep going, and you get a number that starts to getting closer and closer and closer to the number of phi. So it's related to phi in that way, but the phi is actually calculated using what you call the golden rectangle, and it's basically a ratio between the size of a rectangle and, I thought I'd put it in here, so I'll just show you briefly what it is. We have a rectangle. The golden rectangle is such, we will call this, I'm just going to put a little dot there, we'll call this A, and we'll call this A, and we'll call this B. Okay, so we've got this square here, and this side is A plus B. So if I take, this is A, if I take the ratio of A over B, B over A, would be the same as this over this. So this will be the same. So I've got B over A will equal A over A plus B. And I won't bore you with the calculations, but we can work out what this ratio is from this, and it will come out to be a number which we call phi, which is 1.61803, and that's called the number phi. It occurs in nature in many ways, and I will encourage you to look into that a bit more. I'm going to show you, assuming that you have got some background in what this number is and how this ratio falls out in, for example, in spiral galaxies, in the shell of seashells or fish, and like in the whirl and the spirals in the sunflower, and pineapple, many type, the pine cone. You'll find the number phi in there. So it's part of nature. So let me give you a few gematries on this subject. So just let's wipe this off. So we'll start with the number phi, the word phi. That's that word phi. We're going to look at all four gematria values. It has a placement value which we had before, 33. That's the PV. It has a large, a normal value of 87. That's the MV. It has a large value of 187. It's the large value, and the normal large value, the normal inner value of 201. Now if I add that together, I'll get 14, 15, 18. Carry 1, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I get 508. So that is all the four values added together gives me 508. And then if I write out the phi ratio, which was the A over B, which we had before, which we calculate, the phi ratio has a large value of 508. So we see that there is a relationship between phi, the letter phi, and this phi ratio, which we can calculate to be 1.618. So, okay, so the phi ratio, which is based on the golden rectangle, is also called the golden section. So that rectangle has two names. You'll find this rectangle appears in Greek and Roman architecture. So it's a well-known sort of ratio, and it was assumed to be the most beautiful proportion, and it's often called the divine proportion as well. So if I write here golden, I'm gradually running out of ink, let's get another black pen, golden ratio, no, golden rectangle, so golden rectangle, just to show you how these things interrelate with each other. They're not isolated words that people create for these things. These are words that have are connected in a sense, so in a deeper way. So we've got golden section is another term, and this is also 142. By the way, holy tongue in English language equals 142. Golden ratio equals 120, and phi phi equals, well, we had the numbers before, we had the placement values of 33 plus the normal value was 87, and you'll find that equals 120. So that's what I call the total value, the normal and the placement value. Gives you the placement value for golden ratio. So phi is the golden ratio, another connection between those words. So the choice of the letter phi, the Greek letter, was not just some abstract meaning, or it just by chance that these things actually attract each other. They're there for a reason. So let's just move on to look at this ratio. Now, if I write down the Fibonacci series, it goes like this. I started it before, I should give it a little bit more of it. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55. Now that's the number there, 55, is interesting because that is the triangle of the number 10. If you add 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 all the way down to 1, you get to there. Now if you count up from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's the 10th number. It's the 10th number of the series, and it's triangle 10, 55. Okay. Now we're going from there, we keep going, we get 89, and we'll add that to 130, 144. Now 144, you can see, is the 12th number in this series, and it's 12 squared. Okay. Then we add this together, we'll get 3, and we get again 3, 233. Add this together, I get 377, and if I add these two together, I get 610. And these numbers are quite interesting because you've got this double digit here, or each one of them having a double digit. But this number is also very interesting because it's the large value of the word rectangle, which the phi ratio is based on, and that has a large value of 610. That's LV. Okay. Now we're going to look at the relevance of these two numbers, because I said the river that came out, well, one of the 4 rivers that came out from Eden, the Eden was split into 4 heads. We had Pishon and we had Gihon. So Gihon has an interesting relationship in this respect. So let me show you this. Okay. So we take Gihon, and right, I'm just going to rub this one off. I want to keep these ratios here. So we've got Gihon. This is the name in Hebrew. And Gihon has a large value of 300. That's LV. And it has a excuse me, and it has a normal value of 77. That's the NV. 50, 60, 68, 74, 77. That's the normal value. Find the large value is 300. Add those together, I get 377. That's that number there. Okay. Now, but Gihon, we got a rectangle here, and Gihon is the whole of this side. This is what it represents. And now we're just going to look at Chon, because we're going to split it to Gi and Chon. So Chon by itself is this side, is the width. And Chon by itself, he has a placement value of 28, that's the PV, and it has the large value of 205, that's the LV, and that gives you 233. That's what I call the whole value, and this is what I call the total value between adding the, no sorry, this is not the total value, it's the LN value. Not so important to know the names of these things, but this is the 2 systems added, and this is 2 systems added, and I've got 233, which is this value, and 377 divided by 233 will give you phi to a fairly good degree of accuracy. The phi that I get from those two numbers is almost, I have to put it down somewhere, can't find them, but it's pretty close. If I can just grab my calculator, I can tell you straight away. 377 divided by 233 is, if I get this one up here, 377 divided by 233 equals 1.618025, and to 2 sorry, to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the fifth decimal place with 1.61803, which is phi to 6 decimal places. So that's pretty accurate up to that point. It gets more and more accurate as you go further on. This will give you a more accurate number of phi as you keep going along. Actually, it oscillates a little bit, so it's like a big wave, and it gets a little closer and closer and closer to the number phi. So we have phi hidden within Gihon, which as much as we've got pi in Pi Shon, is hidden in Pi Shon, which goes around the land of Chavila. This also goes around. So this idea of phi and pi are related to each other, and they're like two sources of creativity that are coming out from Hashem, from this one source of river. I've spoken about the idea of the 4 basic fundamental forces of nature, and the 4 basic values within the gematria systems that I have, and these are related to the beginnings of this energy system that comes out. These rivers are like a source or ray of light that is coming out from Hashem. Interesting, if you see, there's only two rivers that talks about going around. The others are sort of going straight. And you find, for example, in what's called a cloud chamber, where looking at inspecting cosmic radiation that's coming down from the sky, you can see that anything that's charged will go in a circle, because if it's electron or it's got a positive nature, it will be an electric field, and it goes around in a circle. And anything that's not charged will just go straight through the cloud chamber. So these may be, and I'm not saying that for sure, but these may be related to these energy systems. So now, going back to where this story might begin, in the Torah, I said it's mentioned in the. By the way, this is not in my. This thing about Gihon is not in the slideshow. I'm giving that as a bonus because it's something else I've just recently been working on. But in the second verse of the Torah, it says that the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the water, and this idea of hovering is very interesting, because something that hovers is due to a vortex or a spiral, like a wind, like a whirlwind. And a hovercraft, for example, has to use a propeller that creates a wind. Then that wind is a spiral of air within a current. The word wind has the placement value of 50, and that is circle, because a wind goes around in a circle. So we'll look at the word which represents what is going around in that sort of spiral in the second verse of the Torah, and it's the Ruach Elokim, the Spirit of God. The word Ruach can mean wind or spirit. So Ruach Elokim, I'm going to make a dash there. I'm just going to put that as a kuf instead of a hey, right? Elokim. If I were to work out the values of that, this has a normal value of 86. It's a normal value. That's 5, by the way. That's a hey. That's 40 plus 10 is 50. 50, and that's 30. That's 80. 5 and 1 is another 6. Okay. Ruach is 26 and 8, which is 214. That's also a normal value. And that gives you 300. Okay? If I work out the placement value, I get 20 plus 6 plus 8, which is 34. 34 was one of the numbers in the Fibonacci series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th number in the Fibonacci series. And Elohim is 41, that's the placement value. If I add that together, I get 75. Okay, 41 and that. And if I add that together, I get 375. Now, if I take the word spiral and I work out the normal value, that's 100, 70, 9, 90, 1 and 30. It's 300. That's the normal value. And if I work out the placement value, 19, 16, 9, 18, 1 and 12, I will get 75. So in other words, Ruach Elohim has the same normal value as spiral and the same placement value as spiral. And therefore the Ruach Elohim, I hold, is the spirit of the spiral, is the spirit of Phi. That is the creative energy, whatever you want to call it. It is the fundamental number of Phi related to this, right? And the fact the word 300, the number 300 is connected to star, because that's the large value of star. And we have the idea that the stars go around in a spiral. There are different forms of galaxies. There's the bar galaxies, but many of them are spiral. Even the bar galaxy has a spiral to it. So let me just rub this off. So word galaxy is very interesting. This word gal, in Hebrew gal, means to roll. It means to, like a wave is a gal. It means to reveal. So gal is to roll or to go around in a circle, right? Gilgul is the idea of reincarnation cycle, the idea of the soul coming up and going down, coming up and going down, rebirth. So gal is the cycle of the cycle, and axis is like an axis. Axis is it's going around an axis that's circulating around. Okay, the word gal, by the way, is 33, which is the same thing as Phi. Okay, so 33, that's the normal value. That's 30, that's 3, not the placement value. 33, that's the placement value. Okay, so so the word that actually, oh yes, one other thing about this 300 is the letter Phi. Now there are two systems of gematria in Greek. One is the old system, but in the modern system, where this would be actually 500. But using the modern letters of Greek, where they seem to miss out a few letters here and there, they don't use them anymore. Phi is 300. Okay, I thought I'd add that in as a bonus. So, so now we're going to look at the word in the Torah that actually shows the number Phi. And I'll probably finish on that point. So the word is what we will call hovering in Hebrew, which is marachefet. So it says Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, marachefet al panei hamayim, hovered over the face of the waters. So, and water is a very special, in this context, water is very, very special. I'm not going to go into water. I have got a book on the water. I've got 2 books, 3 books actually connected to the word to water. There's more I'm discovering all the time about this chemical water, but it's hovering over the face of the water. Remember, water wasn't created in the story of the Genesis. It doesn't talk about the creation of water. Obviously, it had to be created, but there's no mention. It's like it's got a supernatural aspect about it, water. But the Hebrew word for hovering over is marachefet. Okay. Now, this work is a little bit complicated, okay? We talked about this rectangle. We did with Gichon. We said this was Chon and this was Gichon, and then we did the ratio between these two because it was 377, this was 233, right? We're going to do something similar here. Let's look at this section here, right? This is the gold section. This is 200, this is 40, that's 240. And we look at this section here, and we've got Taf, which is 400, and Pei, which is 80, we get 480. And this is double that. That's like your first beginning, 1, 1, 2, 3, where 2 divided by 1 is 2. It's very crude. It's not the value of 5, but it's the beginning of this process of creating phi. So we've got 480, 240, and we've got this letter in the middle, which looks like pi, because it's a chet. And interestingly enough, the way that the letter chet is written in the Torah scroll, different opinions about this. There's a zayin and a vov. The vov is the sixth letter, the zayin is the seventh letter, and it's got this little hat on the top, this roof. Okay, it's like a doorway again. I won't go into what these mean. I connect this to the Mashiach. I connect this letter to the Caduceus. There's got some very interesting things about these letters, but it is in effect like a rectangle. Some do it two zines, so you get two zines on top. So it is in some way connected. This is like this is like the letter pi, but it's representing phi. So we'll see how this works. It's a number which is above nature. It's the eighth letter. When we get to 8, we go above the Sabbath, which is the 7. We get to supernatural, which is the circumcision, which is the 8 days of Chanukah, where a miracle took place with the oil in the sanctuary. I've given a lecture on that as well earlier on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these values now, and we're going to do a little trick. We are going to, the only thing is how clear I've actually written it. So if we were to take the value of the total value, if I add these two together, I'll get 720. Alright? But I'm going to add to that the 8, and I'm going to add to that what 8 is, the large value of the chet. So at the moment I've got 728, and now I'm going to add what 8, the word 8, the large value of chet, which is 49, and I'm going to get 777. Okay? So this chet has got an added aspect about it. We're bringing 849, which is 7 squared. Okay? And we brought this into it, and we created 777. Now, if I divide that by 480, okay, so that number represents the whole of the word plus the large value of the chet in the middle. And I'm going to divide it by the side of the rectangle. Okay? This is just, this is marachefet along here, and this is pat. I can't spell, can't write. Okay, there we are, pat. So, and this is gichon. Okay, so I'm going to divide it by that, and I'll get a number which is equal to 1.61875. So basically, to three decimal places, marachefet has within it the number phi again. So not as accurate as Gichon, but it certainly has an idea of the phi ratio within this word. And the number 49 is very interesting in itself, because the number 49 has a relationship to the magic square of 40. All square numbers have relationship to magic squares, and if I have talked about the magic square before, and I won't go into too much depth here, but if you draw a magic square of 7, and I have shown how to do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we want one more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's the middle one, which is 25, which is 49 plus 1, which is 50. Halve it, 25. That goes in the middle. You can do that with all the odd magic squares. Okay. Then you start with 1 here on its right, 2, 3. You go to here, it would be 4, but that has to go over to the next side as if it's wrapped around. Then you go to 5, and then you wrap around this way. It goes down here, 6, 7. Then when you can't go any further, you go 2 to the right. So that becomes 8, 9. That becomes 10, 11, 12, 13 is down here, 14. Can't go any further. That's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, etc., etc. And when you finish that up, and then you add up all the rows and columns and diagonals, you get 175. Right? That was 770, or 77. 770 equals 175. That is the mouth, which is 77. So if I now take the number 49, because that's the number of squares here, 7 times 7, and I work out what the word 49 is, 49, I'll get the number of 126. And if I add, that's the placement value of 14 of the words 49, and if I add these two together, I get 175. In other words, within the number 49 is the value of all the sums of all the squares and the diagonal. And it doesn't work for the magic grid of 3 or 5. I don't think it works for 9 either, and I haven't tested anything beyond that. But it certainly works for this one. 7 by 7 is 49, and 49 126 gives you 175. So you'll see that number 175 in my slideshow, and why that number is relevant to the story of Phi. And I think that is it. There is more. Oh, I'll give you one more thing, something very interesting, because actually this is not on the slideshow. I'll give you one more thing, if I can find it. Yes, it's over here. Okay, watch this carefully. Right, this is the crowning point. Wipe this off. Yep. Okay, so I said that I said that Fibonacci was called, or his real name was Leonardo or Pisa, or Leonardo Bonucci. Leonardo Bonucci. Okay, you can test me out on this. This has a normal inner value of 992. Normal inner value. For those who don't know, L has a normal value of 30 because it goes up to J is 10, K is 11, K is 20, L is 30, decimal numbers, M is 40, N is 50, right? And the word 30 is 100. So if you do that for all these letters and add them up, you get the normal inner value, and that gives you 992. And it has a placement value of 131. And if I add that together, I get 3, 2, and I get 1, 1. Okay, what is that? Well, that is the Fibonacci series, 1, 1, 2, 3. And if I take, I'm going to have to go back a little bit. I highlighted it, but it's disappeared. It was the golden. Oh, shame, because I've actually lost him. 1, 1, 2, 3. Oh, here it is. Golden section. Golden section. In the same place. Golden section. The golden section has a large value. 1, 1, 2, 3. Golden section 1, 1, 2, 3. So, and Leonardo Bonucci 1, 1, 2, 3. I thought that was interesting. He's related to the numbers which he shows to the world. Okay. Oh, I've got one here. Last thing, I didn't mention that one. I've got this one here, galaxy. When we were talking about the galaxy, galaxy equals 70 equals world. That's also 70 in the placement value. Okay, and there's lots more which you can see on my slideshow, and that is it. So we see the connectivity within the words that are used for the number Phi, and the miracle is really this language of English and the Greek and the Hebrew, and how it all comes together into like an enormous pattern that reveals the divine plan within creation. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next lecture, or you'll see me in the next lecture. Have a good day.